dogs and cats that ran free in here, but above all, it smelled of smoke. The women had claimed the hearth itself, sitting about the fire on benches and stools, or like Gwen and her sisters, on the floor, and the men did not challenge them. No sane man challenged a wise woman, much less a gaggle of them. Behind them, on the mead benches, were the men of her father's following. He was Llwyd Ogofan Gower, called the Giant, and unchallenged king of these parts. There were no more Romans to contest his rule. The Romans had come and now gone from here. They mined their tin, lead, and gold no more, and the amphitheatre they had built for their so-called games now echoed only to the wail of wild cats at night. And good riddance, said her mother. Her father's words were more pithy and profane. The good-natured growling and grumbling of the men sounded like a muttering chorus of sleepy bears on the edge of hibernation, fat with autumn berries and nuts, and thinking mostly about sleep. Partly that was the mead and ale of her mother Ellery's brewing. She put herbs in it, she said to flavour it, but the women all knew it was to make the men calm and sleepy, and that was a secret that would never be breathed to the men, not even the king, her husband. There was little argument on Ogofan Gower's mead benches, and no hot-tempered quarrels that could break into blood feud. Ellery the Queen was a wise woman in the sense of knowing the ways of herbs as well as of magic, and she reckoned it worth the effort to keep the men from making more grief than there already was in the world. Bronwyn, who served as her right hand and the children's nurse, was the keeper of her secrets. Hunting and fighting and tall tales were the order of business on the mead benches tonight. With the harvest over, it was hunting that would keep the men busy until spring, and hunting would be needed to keep the hall fed if the winter was a harsh one. Magic was the subject on the hearthstone. It was the provenance of women, and a very few, very select group of men. The druids, the bards, the occasional hermit healer. Ellery had told Gwen that this was because men spent too much time around cold iron, wearing it in the form of weapons, crafting it, cherishing it. Magic shuns cold iron, she had said with a decided nod. Men might have the gift, but while they cling to cold iron, they'll never have the power. Gwen most especially watched her mother, listened to her words, for the Queen was also the chief sorceress here, and high in the councils of the wise. Ellery had the power, and had it in abundance. Gwen had watched her by full moon and waning, by midsummer sun and midwinter dark, weaving her power into the spells that were the weapons she wielded to defend, protect, and nurture their people. There were 2 thrones in Llwyd Ogofan Gower's high hall, the one at the mead benches and the one at the hearth, and both were equal. The king guarded the people with his sword. The Queen did so with power. There were those that said the Queen was fey-touched. Certainly, despite having given birth to Gwen and all her sisters, she often seemed as young as any of the maids at her hearth. There were those that said the 2 youngest of the brood, Gwen and her younger sister, took after her. But those that said so did so with a touch of pride, not fear, so if they were fey-touched, then that would be a good thing. Gwen's sisters sat beside her, watching and listening just as raptly. Ginath, who was almost 12 summers, Kataruna, who was 14, and Gwenhwyfar, a mere 5, the sister enough like her to have been Gwen's twin, all listened and remained very, very quiet, lest they be remembered and sent off to bed. All the sisters had much the same look about them. They got their looks from their mother, who was slim and very fair.